you wanted to go fly fishing for pike. Because you can actually catch all fish on pike, or nearly all fish. You can catch all the carnosaurs on fly because they will go for the same sorts of lures as the trout as well. Those frog lures or small fish lures, the pike will go for them as well, won't they? So you're not just fishing for trout. I've even caught barbel on fly and dace and roach. All sorts of fish will take the fly. So fly fishing is a very varied sport. You can even go sea fishing with the fly as well. Catch mackerel or go abroad and catch bonefish. Fly fishing, very varied. We come back now to these two rods. I was showing you this one earlier. This is actually a Hardy Blank, famous name. It's a very light rod. This one has on it 9-foot trout fly by Simpsons of Turnfoot. AFTM, American Fishing Tackle Manufacturer. That's the weight of the line, and 6 is the thickness and weight of the line. So this is quite a light rod. When you go and buy your rod, you must buy the same line as the rod takes. They must balance together. A bit like archery, a bow and an arrow must be balanced. So AFTM, the weight of the line. Now the lines themselves differ too. You can have weight forward, where the actual heavy fishing line is thicker at the end you're going to cast with and gives more weight to cast out, or is tapered. A tapered line is usually tapered at both ends, so it's thickest in the very middle of all the line and towards the ends becomes thinner. Quite useful if the line gets old and you want to turn it round. Buy a good line. Always buy the best tackle, because a good fly fishing line will not have memory. It will not curl up. When you cast it, it will stay out nice and straight, be nice and supple. A cheap line tends to remain coiled like it is on the reel, and when you cast out it all twists up like a snake again. Not what you want. So spend a few bob more to get a good fishing line. Buy the best of everything. Now this one's an ordinary fiberglass rod. This one though is a carbon fibre rod. It looks, it's the same length as that one, but it's slightly slimmer. But in fact it takes an 8 to 9 line, a much heavier line. On this one I've got a lead cord line, a fast sinking line, to get down there quickly for those fish. I want to go very deep water, or I want to fish a lake, or the water's very fast, and lead cord lines are very useful. And the carbon fibre rods are very light rods, because they're now no longer fiberglass. Using this carbon means that you can have a much lighter rod, easier to handle. Okay, after that then we get on to how we're going to fish for these fish and how we're going to handle the rods. The way to hold the rod. I'm a right-hander, so I'm going to hold my rod so. Now for casting, I can push with the thumb here, so I keep my thumb up, and I can use the rod against the wrist to pull it back. So when I pull back, if I lever the rod against my wrist so, that way, push with my thumb, back with my wrist, push with my thumb, that takes a lot of weight off my wrist. Okay, the next thing is the position. Okay, my arm is about 45 degrees, my hand here and the rod vertical. We don't need to use the arm for casting until you get a long way out with the line, or there's a lot of wind, or you're getting very tired perhaps. All we need to use is the wrist. And the arm at 45 degrees, and the rod shouldn't go much more than 45 degrees either way as well. So, and when you let the line go forward, so when you move the line forward you let go of some line, when you move the line back you can let go of some line as well. So what we do first of all is to pull off some line so, and have as much as we need, and then as you go back you let go of some line, as you go forward you let go of some line, and you don't go beyond that movement. You don't need to go right down until you finish the cast. When you do your final cast out you go at 90 degrees, otherwise about 45. Use the tip of the rod, you flick the rod, you pull and you push, you pull and you push. It's not an arm movement, let's get that from the beginning. It's wrist only. Now what you're trying to do is cast out this heavier line here, straight in front of you and straight behind. So you only let line out when the line goes straight in front and straight behind. It's not a whip. If you go, it means that you haven't let the line go straight behind you, or you haven't let the line go straight in front of you. It must go straight, then let some line out. Straight, then let some line out as you go. Straight, each way. 90 degrees, 90 degrees. The line shouldn't be in a curve when you bring it forward again, otherwise you're going to crack it. Could even lose your fly. So the basics of casting then. Let's have a look at that, shall we? Right, so we pull off line first of all, as much as we need. So. And then we can let go of the fly and keep hold of the line here. You keep this line in your hand all the time now. The rod at 45 degrees comes from that to 45 degrees behind. A quick flick at first, line straight, line straight, line straight, let some line out, back behind me, let some line out, back behind me. And I've now got all of my line out and the line is in the air. and I'm only using my wrist. I'm just flicking that rod tip. If I now let the line go out onto the water, a little gentle splash, and that's as easy as that. Now we draw it back in again, and I keep the line between my fingers like this. So straight, 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 the line goes out. Now to draw it back in, around my finger there, and I just pull the line in little strokes. There are more advanced ways. You can do a figure of 8 like this between your fingers. But I'm just going to show this one for you. Just bring it back through your fingers, at whatever speed you need, faster, slower, faster, for wet fly fishing or for nymph fishing or for lure fishing. And we're ready again when we're up. Get hold of the line, let it out as it goes forward or back if you wish, but usually forward, and gently out at the end. Get hold of it again, straight away, and you can let the line sink as deep as you want. So at this time you can count to 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. In this case it's very shallow, so I'm going to draw in fairly quickly, and just draw it through your fingers. So if you get a bite, then you strike like that. Now when you strike, don't strike too hard. Just tighten to the fish. With a fly line, you don't strike, you tighten. If you do strike, you'll probably lose your fish and and break the line off. So when we actually strike on a fly, we just tighten. So again, we'll get it out there. Now I'm going to let it sink to the bottom. And if I had a bite, all I would do is tighten to the fish. Now, don't usually point the rod straight at the fish. We usually have it at a slight angle, maybe 45 degrees or 90 degrees, so that you can see the rod tip and feel the fish as you're drawing the line in. Okay, this is a method for fishing the wet fly or the lure. So for casting, when we let the line actually go out at the end, it's very gentle, just gently let it down onto the water, the slightest of plops, the line should be dead straight, and then we can gradually start drawing back in again. And to show that again, the line goes out in front, doesn't touch the water at the beginning, and when you're absolutely straight in front, let go, gently down into the water, no splashing, and just gently bring the line back in. Now dry fly, the technique is no different for casting, except that with dry fly you cast upstream in a river and let it come back down to you. With wet fly it's normal to cast across or downstream and bring the lure in or the wet fly in across to you. Nymphing is slightly different again because it's more delicate. You may be using a dry fly line and letting the nymph go just below the water, or you may be using a very gentle, slow sinking line and just tweaking it in ever so gently. And occasionally, as I say, you may use a sinking line or a slow sinking line, and fish actually on the bottom and let the booby fly or the little floating fly come off the bottom. And that's again a more advanced technique. If we just stick to basics at the moment, that should do us, shouldn't it? Well, there you are, that's the basics of your casting. Now if there's wind, if there's a lot of wind, you'll notice when I was casting just then, I was casting with the rod vertically. But if there's a lot of wind and I don't want to hit my face, it can be wise to wear sunglasses or glasses for safety or a hat, then you can cast to the side as well. You have to be capable of casting in any direction, letting line out as you cast like this, not just pulling it off beforehand if there's a lot of grass underneath you. So that's letting the line out as you cast. Then I might have to cast that side or this side. I might have to cast either side. So you have to be capable of casting any direction, any angle, because of trees or so on behind you. You must make sure though that that line goes 90 degrees behind and 90 degrees in front, whatever. Okay, that's given you all the basics you need to know, the very basics. We aren't going into the expertise. Clothing, again it's up to you, but do wear something the fish aren't going to see. Simple things like keep off the horizon, don't thump on the ground, fish feel vibration, fish see things on the horizon, keep down, keep out of sight, keep things behind you if you can, tread gently, move slowly, and obviously your casting has to be delicate. Remember, these are wild fish usually, unless you're fishing in a reservoir or a lake and fishing deeper. Of course, you know, fly fishing can be done from the bank, from the boat, from the beach, almost anywhere, so you've got all sorts of potential here. Anyway, having said that and given you the very, very basics, because you've only got a few minutes to do this in, let's now go and actually try and catch some fish and show you how that happens. We'll go to a little lake called Lac du Picards, which is a lovely little French lake up in the mountains here, and I'll show you how to catch a fish on dry fly. So on the dry fly, we're very finicky today about a wet fly. Let me just take this little